Hey, this is Caleb. Thanks for joining us here, Millennial Z, as we take a look at the Lord of the Rings Online and how to choose gear and what your statistics or stats really are for. Picking the right gear is going to make a big difference on the quality of your playthrough. How frustrating it is, how long it takes, how many times you die, how many enemies you can handle at once, and things like that. It can really make the difference between a smooth evening questing and leveling up and a very frustrating one. So let's take a look at the character panel real quick here. To open up your character panel, of course, you can hit the C key on your keyboard. Down here at the bottom, you'll also see the little red sheet of paper. I think it's behind the shadow silhouette of a person's face. We're going to open that up, and you'll see the character panel. On this panel, you can really start to wrap your head around what your stats are for and what stats you need, just simply by mousing over and checking out your tooltips. So just take a few minutes, and you know what, if you have to do this a couple of times until you wrap your head around it, that is totally fine. Don't feel bad about that at all. It can be a little overwhelming if you're not used to thinking about things like that in a game. But what the stats do and what their complexity does is it allows you to build a very specific character build, or at least has the potential to do that. So as I mouse over might, for example, it tells me how much might I have, what my base might is, and how much might is added by my gear. As a warden, might increases my physical mastery, block rating, and parry rating. So out of my 120 might, it's adding 240 points to physical mastery, 360 points to block rating, and 240 to parry. If you don't know what all of that stuff means, that's fine. We'll get to that in a minute. But what you really are looking at here is the description. Okay, it's just telling me what might does. Now, when I mouse down to agility, you're going to see something different. As a warden, agility is very important for me. So it tells me what it adds, physical mastery, like might does, but you'll see that it adds quite a bit more. So for the 310 I have 930 going to physical mastery. But it also adds a slew of other things as well: critical rating, parry, evade. But the key thing is, if you're just starting out and you're trying to wrap your head around this stuff, you mouse over your stats, and when you see that line, agility or whatever is very important to you, that's the stat that you want to hone in on while you're questing. Okay, so these other stats are still arguably important. So you'll see vitality is important for me. It's not very important to me like agility. Vitality is important to me. And vitality, it tells me what it does. It increases my maximum morale. Okay, so there's no hidden meaning or hidden, required research done. It just basically gives me more health. It lets me know what my primary stat's going to be, and then it lets me know what my secondary stat's going to be. So in the case of here as a warden, vitality secondary for me, still pretty important, and it's going to increase my morale. So the bottom line is, as I'm choosing gear to level, I'm going to go heavy on agility and secondary on vitality. So if I'm offered a piece of gear that only has might and doesn't have agility, I'm going to try to steer clear of it, because might will help me out a little bit. Agility is going to help me out a lot more. Now, this is where you might be able to start to customize your playing and customize the feel of how things are going. If you find that you are dying a lot, all right, you may want a bit more vitality. And so what a lot of times you can find is pieces of jewelry that don't necessarily specifically address agility or might. You might find some that specifically address vitality. So like this has outgoing healing rating. Well, that's ridiculous. First of all, why does a minimum level 12 have outgoing healing rating when nobody's running any instances at level 12 typically that require any kind of healing? So that's kind of weird as in and of itself. But I picked this piece up simply because I could craft it at a low level and it had vitality. So obviously I'm in desperate need of new gear. So we'll take a look at that as well. So again, primary thing is going to be agility. Secondary is going to be vitality. All right, and if you find that you are dying too often, boost your vitality. If you find that you're fine, you're really not struggling with dying at all, but you feel like the playthrough is just a bit too slow, it's taking too long, you'd like to see if it can go quicker to kill enemies, go a bit heavier on your major damage stat, which for a warden or a hunter would be agility. Champion and guardian is going to be might. Runekeeper and mini are going to be will and fate. And again, as you mouse over, whatever your class is, it will call that out for you. That's pretty important.